Good evening, and thank you for joining us on this very, very, very special occasion for all of us here at the Trulaske College of Business. My name is Balaji Rajagopalan. I am honored to be the Dean at the Robert J. Trulaske Senior College of Business, and today we are here to honor Rob Jr. because without his tireless efforts, the college naming would not have been possible. So for all of us here, this is a very, very, very special day. Of course, this happened well before I arrived on campus, but I've heard so many stories about Rob and how he viewed life in such positivity. As part of that, as part of this event, we have a video that you will watch in a few minutes. There were so many stories that were part of that video that it was hard for us to fit all of that into the video. So I thought I would share a few that are not part of the video that, that caught my attention. Jean spoke of her father's spiritual beliefs as they pertained to golf. During the week, he dedicated his time and energy to True Manufacturing, so there was, she said, very little time for practice. And so he would sign up for an occasional charity golf tournament, and since he wouldn't have much time to practice, there was only one thing that was left, she said, for him, and that is to pray. And so she fondly recalls his pleas with God. I want to quote, "Please, please, please, if I play really well in the tournament this week, I'll make a donation to charity," is what Rob said, apparently. And as with his great golf swing, he always came through, followed through that. It was an excuse for him to lift up his community by supporting great organizations. And of course, life, as we all know, is not always great swings, but Rob taught his family that there was something to be learned when life goes off course too. When his golf ball would land in sand, instead of screaming things that would be censored that most people do, what Rob would say is that he is on the beach. Such was his positivity. It's one of the many lessons he taught his family about being a successful business leader. He told his son John that patience is everything. Take a long-term view. If a prospective client says no on the first try, he said, keep calling. Eventually, the current supplier, he said, would make a mistake or a misstep, and you will get that account. That's how he landed big clients like Starbucks. He taught his daughter that not everyone's going to like you, and that's okay. Keeping generations of his family connected was a way that Rob thought about landing the Robert J. Trulaske Jr. Foundation. It was a way that he thought would keep his family connected. A community-focused residential program dedicated to supporting adults with developmental disabilities was inspired by his son. He also gave generously to support parks, cultural institutions in his community to preserve historic properties. And today, the Robert J. Trulaske Jr. Foundation continues to support that. And most important of all, Rob maintained his connection to his father, Bob, by leading an effort, as we all know now, to have our college named in honor of his father. Rob dedicated his life to following in his father's footsteps, and for Rob, that meant growing true manufacturing to what it is today, a thriving business. Bob Sr. credited his professional success with the education that he received here at the University of Missouri. Many true manufacturing employees have fond memories of receiving a Mizzou Christmas ornament each year from Rob in honor of his father's tiger spirit. Making sure that this college would bear the Robert J. Trulaske Sr. name was one of Rob's last major undertakings. He championed that initiative even as his own health declined. For that, for all that Rob gave to the college, we will be eternally grateful. It is an honor to know that with this portrait that we will unveil today, his leadership, his presence in spirit, his contagious positivity, his humor will always, always be seen and felt here in the Trulaske College of Business. Thank you so much for joining us today and recognizing the immense contributions that Robert J. Trulaske Jr. made in making this happen for all of us. And his commitment to the college will always be remembered fondly, as will the stories about him and the video that you will watch today hopefully will remain with us forever. It is now my distinct pleasure and honor to welcome our visionary president, Dr. Moon Choi.
Thank you, Dean, and thank you for your excellent leadership of this incredible College of Business. It's my great honor to be here to speak to the many family members and friends that gather to celebrate Mr. Robert Trulaske Jr. And Waylon, I'm going to get to you at the end, okay? So get ready. But, you know, you hear so much about a man through stories that people would tell, whether it's John having lunch with me maybe about 3 months ago, where I asked him about his father. And I learned a lot through that interactions, as well as interactions with others that knew him. And I came away from those conversations thinking, I wish I had known the man. Because what I see in his life is something that is very difficult to achieve. And that is, when a man is born to a legendary person, will that person take up the mantle? Can they actually handle the pressure that's expected of success? And he did. And I admire people like that. And people think that when you're born into a family with success, that it's easy. It's actually harder, because there are so many ways that a person can fail, but he didn't. And so I'm very proud to call him an incredible alum at the university. So it's very fitting that we're here to recognize a highly accomplished alumni of the University of Missouri. Mr. Robert J. Trulaske Jr.'s support created one of the top business schools in the United States, and I believe that strongly. A business school that has produced giants in industry and corporate arenas. And Robert, who was affectionately known as Rob to his family and friends, was one of those giants. He took an iconic company and made it into the standard bearer and the go-to name in food services. He was known as a hard worker, a community leader, and a devoted family man. He was a philanthropist who made organizations that he touched better for it. Of the many great causes that he supported, we all know that he loved this university. And for him to have his last major undertaking be the naming of this school so that every single graduate can proudly say that they graduated from the Robert J. Trulaske Senior College of Business is very fitting. He didn't do it for himself. He did it for the person that he admired. And you know about his father. I don't have to tell you. The family is so proud of Robert Sr. When I visited the facility, the True facility, the first thing that I saw was walking into that area that is a memorial to Robert Sr. and thinking about what he accomplished as a 27-year-old in World War II, flying the C-47s, transporting the paratroopers, the courage that he had, and I'm sure he was scared. But that didn't make a bitter man. That made a man that valued humanity, and he passed that down to his family. Rob was absolutely instrumental. He was so proud of this college, so proud that the college is named after his beloved father. So I want to thank the family members. I had a chance, I've known John for many years. I had a chance to meet with Jean Dalba, and I want to share my deep appreciation to you for your support, as well as Vitalia and Paul. But now I want to ask Amelia, Getty, Winston, and Waylon to stand up. Okay? You are the next generation that's going to carry the Trulaske heritage to even greater heights. You have a lot to live up to, but I'm confident that you can get there. But one thing, you're all young. You're young too. I mean, the best advice that you can get is from your parents. They'll teach you the lessons that you need to be successful. So I'm very proud of you. I hope to see you here for college. Amelia, I hope to see you here for graduate school. Okay? We have programs here. But thank you for all of your support. Your support is greatly appreciated. And thank you for joining us for this very special celebration. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, President Choi. Clearly, this is just a very, very special homecoming. Homecoming is always special, but this homecoming is just very, very special for us in the college because, as you may know, on Friday, Robert J. Trulaske Sr. was inducted into the Hall of Fame at the University of Missouri. And today we are unveiling the portrait of Robert J. Trulaske Jr. Just amazing people that we are really, really fortunate to have had their support. So on to the next person, speaker, needs no introduction. All of this happened because of so many wonderful people, but the man behind it all, I would say that if we say that we stand on the shoulders of giants, one of the giants that truly made a tremendous impact is Dr. Bruce. I'll say even now.
Thank you. Yeah. I thought Balaji was doing a eulogy, and I had to keep all those words. You'll have a chance to use them, I'm sure. Good.
Thank you, Dean.
I thought you were going to commend Pam and say that she brought someone along with her, right? Well, this is a wonderful day. I am so happy to be part of honoring Rob Trulaske which is so deserved. John asked me to talk about my, I guess, behind-the-scenes perspective on how the naming of the college came about. But I want to flip it around. I want to tell you about 6 times I thought the name of the college was not going to occur, okay? Now, President Choi, I was thinking if I say anything inappropriate, you're going to fire me. And then I realized something very important. You can't fire me. But I don't think I'll say anything inappropriate. So the first time was a fleeting moment, but it was very important. And this was very early in the process when I'd talked with Bob and Geraldine just about the possibility of naming the college. It was a very general discussion. And then later, as Bob was prone to do, he followed up. And I thought, well, I guess I got to ask him this question. I said, Bob, please don't be offended. I hope this doesn't upset you, but I've got to ask the question in the interest of due diligence. Is there anything in your background or the company's background that might embarrass the university if we move forward with this possibility? And I thought, oh. And Bob said, I said, has anything happened? And he said, well, yes. And I thought, oh, man, this has ended quickly. And I said, could you tell me what that was? And he said, well, a number of years ago, we got audited by the IRS. And I said, and the outcome was what? He said, we were clean. And I said, okay, so there's number 1. Phew. Number 2 was reaching agreement with the Trulaske family about how the funds from any gift would be deployed, how they would be used. Now, Bob and Geraldine's first gift was used for scholarships, first undergraduate and then MBA students. And then after Bob passed, Geraldine and family provided a very substantial gift, and we had a number 6, I believe, 6 named faculty positions, 6 amply funded named faculty positions, which helped us immensely. And I actually think there's somebody in the room that holds one of those, right? Dean Rajagopalan has the Robert J. Trulaske Senior Dean position in the college, so I know he feels honored by that. But we'd done scholarships, we'd done named positions, so what was next? Well, the college had a number of priorities, things that we needed to improve or that were already quite good that we wanted to take to excellence. Things I jotted down, information technology. It was way before the era that we're in now, but we still had to make progress. Also, accountancy, entrepreneurship, study abroad, and priorities like that. And we would have that discussion, and then often over dinner at the St. Louis Club, so that was nice surroundings. And then the family would say, but how about named positions and scholarships? A little easier to understand. So we went back and forth, and I'm sure I told Pam a couple times on the drive back from St. Louis, I don't think it's going to happen. So that was time number 2. So the most momentous one, and Mike, stick with me on this, right? This was the Monday call from Mike Newmark. It was a Monday morning. I was in my office, and I get a call from Mike, who was representing the family's interests. And he said, Bruce, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. I said, what's not going to happen? He says, the naming gift. I said, well, oh my gosh, what happened? He said, well, Rob's in Germany undergoing experimental cancer treatment, as you know, and I talk with him every week, and I talked with him earlier today, time difference, so it was afternoon in Germany, and he said, I've got to focus on my health. I can't do anything more. Have I got it right so far, Mike? Yes. And he then went on, he said, I can't do anymore. I can't cross any more T's, dot any more I's. I'm sorry. So I tried, I was in the 4th floor. I tried to open the windows, but they were locked, so I stayed at my desk. Didn't get too depressed because I thought, well, I understand that. You can't be upset about something like that. So the next day I get another call from Mike, and he says, Bruce, I'm really sorry. I said, Mike, you apologized yesterday. You don't need to apologize again. It was not your doing. I understand. He said, no, I apologize because I guess I misinterpreted Rob's message to me. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, when he said he couldn't cross any more T's or dot any more I's, he meant the agreement. So he signed it, sent it back, and it arrived via DHL this morning, and it's in my office. So you talk about going, wow. So that turned out wonderfully. Next, we had to secure a partnership from MU. I had been fairly close to the vest on all of this. I didn't want things to leak out and so forth. So I hadn't really talked with a lot of people. But I did then arrange a meeting with the chancellor and provost and went over and I said, you know, I think we have the possibility of a naming gift for the college at a very, very substantial level that was approved by the university, the amount. But the family, rightfully so, thinks this ought to be a partnership. They're doing this, what's the university going to do? Bear with me on this, sorry, but one of the people in the meeting said, well, why are we going to do anything? They're giving the money. I said, not necessarily. This is a partnership. So we went back and forth for quite a while, but I left that meeting with a approval of a very specific proposal that I put forth on how the university could be a partner with the Trulaske family in improving the college. So that was number 3. Once we had the signed document, any big naming like this, I think I'm correct on this, Dr. Choi, needs to receive approval from the Board of Curators, right? So that was the next step. And I hadn't talked with anyone on the Board of Curators, but I did happen to know that year the curator's president, someone named Don Walsworth. So I called Don and I told him what had happened and where we were. And Don goes, this is fantastic, this is fantastic. Have you talked to the president about it yet? I said, well, no. He said, well, you probably should do that. It was an interim president, a wonderful man named Gordon Lamb. And so I got off the phone. This is now Tuesday, Monday the first call, Tuesday the second call from Mike. And he said, well, I called the president, and he, of course, said, have you talked to the chancellor and provost? I said, well, I did have a meeting with them about the partnership. We've got that going. And I said, but we need approval from the Board of Curators, and time is really of the essence here. We want to have this done so that Rob can participate. And the president said, well, let me look at the schedule for the Board of Curators. This was July. And he said, I think we could get you on the board agenda for January. And I said, really? He said, well, you know, in this meeting we go over what we're going to do on residential housing and tuition and fees, and next week working on budget, so January should work. I said, that's not going to work. And so finally we got to November, and I said, when's the next meeting? He said, well, this Friday. I said, now that will work for me. I don't know how it will work for me, but that will work for me. So what we need from you is your case statement. What's your case statement? You know, why should we do this? And we need it by tomorrow so we can distribute it to the curators. I wrote up something. It was brief, 2.5 pages. I didn't know if that was sufficient. Meantime, while I was waiting for some feedback from the president, I was fortunate to not only know Don Walsworth on the Board of Curators, but 2 other curators. One is my best friend here in Columbia, Bo Frazier, then CEO of Boone County National Bank, and also an alumnus from the St. Louis area. And now, I called and talked with each of them. I didn't expect them to go easy on me. I just wanted to be able to state my case. And I did, and I will say that later on, they were supportive. So that was good fortune arriving again. It turned out that the meeting, so to speak, was a home game for us because it was going to be in Marceline, where Don's company is headquartered. Not only that, it was going to be at the Walsworth Family Community Center in Marceline. So I thought, well, this is going well so far, except I was dealing with some kind of anomalous migraines, and I wasn't sure I could drive. So Pam came to the rescue and drove me up there, helped me out one more time, along with many other times during my tenure as dean, and we made it. And I walked into the Walsworth Community Center, and I got looks and questions like, you never come to these meetings. What are you doing here? I said, well, I can't really talk about that. So we went into the meeting, and there were not many people. Board of Curators, because it was then a closed session. They closed the session so we could discuss this. It was Board of Curators and just the University General Counsel, and just a couple other people there. And I stated my case. The first question during Q&A, when I asked for that, the first question was, does the family have the financial capability to do this? And I said, well, yes. And they said, well, but have you done a D&B on the company? And I said, well, no. I said, but you're going to have to trust me on this one. There's financial capacity there. We don't have to worry about that. And there was great reluctance. Fortunately, I had Don Walsworth, Bo Frazier, and the other alumnus in the room, and they all spoke up about this. So after a little bit more discussion, there was a call for the vote, and my request, the proposal to name the college after Bob, was approved. Not only approved, but it was approved unanimously. So there we go. That was fantastic. And Pam and I, headed back to Columbia happy. Lastly, we set the naming for early September. And we invited alumni, faculty and staff, students, leaders from around the campus, and remarkably, they showed up. They not only showed up, we had 500 plus people in the Bush Auditorium. It was more than packed. It was really quite something. One person we didn't have, well, actually more than one, a few people that we didn't have were John and his father, Rob, and Geraldine wasn't there. Yeah.
Jean and Geraldine.
Yeah, so we were missing a few people that were fairly important for the ceremony. So about 2:05, I started stalling, and we had not told people what was going to happen. We just said, this is an historic announcement. And people had reason to be skeptical. You know, he's going to call this off any minute now. But they stayed, and then I called John. I said, John, hi there, how you doing? He said, oh, we're doing fine. I said, what are you doing? He said, well, Rob, my dad, he said, we came over here, and, he said, well, you know what I want to do? I want to go to Steak and Shake, right?
Went to Steak and Shake.
Went to Steak and Shake, and who can argue with that? So they finished up at Steak and Shake, and again, I asked everybody for their patience. It's going to be worth waiting. And we didn't have any song and dance or anything. We just had to ask for people and have good conversation. And so I think you arrived at not 2, but 2:30 or 2:40 or thereabouts. So, but they arrived. That's very important. I recall that I asked John to talk with his father about maybe speaking for 8 minutes. And this reminds me of the Jim Valvano talk, Never Give Up. When Jim said, I'm up here, what are you going to do to me if I talk? I'm going to talk as long as I want. I don't think Rob would ever say anything like that, but he may have thought it. Rob got up and spoke for 30 minutes, and it was incredible, absolutely incredible. We saw a snippet of it on Friday at the luncheon, and I looked over and I saw John had moist eyes, and I had moist eyes. It was absolutely wonderful, and there were people crying in the audience at the end of Rob's remarks. So thank goodness he showed up, right? So with any successful project, this was a team effort, and I thank all of the Trulaske family members, certainly including Bob's wonderful wife, Geraldine. I always admired the special relationship that Geraldine had with my wife, Pam. They really liked each other. But I'm sure Geraldine would say that the driving force behind this gift was son Rob, or else, as Balaji said, we would not be here today. So I think it's magnificent that we have this chance to salute and honor him again today. So appreciate your listening to my perspective, my reminiscing about how the naming gift came about, or in 6 different times almost didn't come about. So thank you.
Thank you, Dean Walker, and we appreciate your role in this as well. Thankful very much. There's one more thing that Dean Walker is supposed to do. I can do it. Thank you, Dean Walker. It is my privilege to ask John and Jean to come forward and say a few words.
Thank you, Bruce. That was great. Good. It's so great to hear those stories. And okay. And I mean, I think Gene and I really wanted this day to happen because we had heard a lot of this, but we really wanted everyone to know that the story of Rob's background about having this happen and the whole naming really came from Rob, and we wanted to celebrate him and really acknowledge him in the college. So thank you, Bruce and Pam, for working with Bob and Rob and being dedicated to it. And Dean Balaji, the new Robert J. Trulaske Senior Dean of the college, you're doing a great job. Really grateful for all your work, and thank you very much. Along with the deanship, and I'll highlight a few of the accomplishments, there are also 2 department chair positions that we've had and 3 professorships in the college. So that's great. Michael Newmark and the other trustees, thank you so much for all your support and making sure all the support to the college went well. Our Uncle Steve isn't here today, but he recently made a donation in Rob's honor, and so we're really appreciative to Steve and his support of the college. So we wanted to mention that. Other impact items, and like we were talking with Mary Beth just over the weekend, when Bob passed away in 2004, they brought 53 flowers to the service in recognition of the 53 students that have received scholarships. That was in 2004, and today we have awarded 550 Trulaske scholarships. Yeah, so that's fantastic. So that's since 2001, and today there's 25 students currently in the college on the Trulaske scholarships. And then we've supported a lot of strategic priorities, numerous strategic priorities that the college has implemented over the years. So, Jean, you want to say a few words?
Sure. Yeah. I also want to thank Dean Rajagopalan and President Choi for the remarks you've made today. They were really beautiful statements about Rob and very sensitive, and I greatly appreciate it. The hanging of Rob's portrait will always be very meaningful to our family. Thank you for supporting our family's desire to honor Rob today and his generous contributions to the business school. This is a legacy that Rob's grandchildren and future generations will treasure. I admire my father very much, as well as my grandfather, and their close relationship, both in business and personally. Along with the success of the company, the donations to the business school are emblematic of their excellent work ethic and their shared desire to help others establish rewarding careers. On Friday, I had the honor of seeing Bob Trulaske inducted into the Mizzou Hall of Fame. This experience was very special. Thank you very much, President Choi and Dean Rajagopalan, for making this possible, and the administration. We couldn't be more grateful. Dean Walker, thank you for facilitating Rob's contributions to the business school and ultimately the naming of the school. Thank you for inspiring Rob and Bob. And I just want to echo John's remarks and thank the trustees. Thank you, Michael Newmark, for facilitating the donation. Thank you to Rob's trustees for enabling us to fulfill the donation completely and fully, and making this a priority. Sharon Reed, thank you very much for organizing the event today and all of your preparation, all of your efforts. Recently, on Friday, I had the opportunity to meet several Trulaske scholars, a few Trulaske scholars at lunch. We had a meeting after the Hall of Fame lunch and at the Davenport dinner. And that was one of my highlights of my trip to Columbia, was being able to recognize what wonderful individuals are receiving the scholarships and see and learn about their appreciation of the gifts as well as the impact it's making on their lives as they prepare for their futures. Rob and Bob would be very excited and to see the impact that they're making today, and understand the impact that the gifts have made on the school. And I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to be here and witness, see a glimpse of the impact.
Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. Really appreciate it.
Stay up. Jean, stay up here. Jean, stay up. Thank you, John and Jean. We will now have the unveiling of the portrait. I'd like President Choi, Jean, John, Dean Walker, please join us for the unveiling. And Jean, please make it now. This is a mini portrait that they can paint. John?
Okay, great. Thank you. That's great.
Did she get two or?
Oh, yeah. I can hold.
You can hold
One's
this.
probably enough. Okay, thank you.
All right, Bruce? And how about, hey, wait.
The short kids could be up front.
Waylon, you're in front.
Yep, over here. Good, good.
You're not smiling. All right, great.
Now we get to watch. I talked about the video that was made. So in just in a minute, I think they've all set it up. So all good, ready to go?
Rob loved the Cards for sure.
There was baseball in his blood, throughout his life.
And actually, our first date was at a Cardinals game.
My grandma Geraldine, he was attending a St. Louis Browns baseball game when she went into labor with Rob.
And she told Bob, no, I can't leave until I have my hot dog.
He went from the stadium to the hospital. I think he was just meant to be a Cardinals fan.
Rob had a reputation of being late. Okay, you could schedule the meeting for whatever time you wanted, and he was going to be late.
I had a flight to catch, whatever. The flight was going to leave in 30 minutes, and we left 30 minutes for a 30-minute drive. So we get there, and the plane's gone.
He was pretty much late to every interview or every meeting he ever had. It was probably his only flaw. He was always late, except for the one he had with God. He was way too early for that one.
Rob was actually very present. So when he was with you and with family, it was all about you. And it was all about being right in the moment.
He loved his quiet time. I think the nature brought a lot of peace to him.
It's fun to see how the family really came together with hiking.
Rob had a huge love of the nature and the outdoors, and I think he inherited some of that from his father and his grandfather.
The kids would go tubing, and, I was laughing from the time we got in the boat till the time they dropped me off at the dock.
He really became kind of a naturalist, a John Burroughs kind of guy.
He created a family foundation later in life that was dedicated to the preservation of open spaces and nature and things like that.
The foundation is focused on the things that he cared about deeply, such as biodiversity and the environment.
Both Rob and Bob felt that the foundation of success was education, and they couldn't speak more highly of the education that they received at the University of Missouri.
Rob loved his father very much, as that led into him honoring his father, dedicating the business school in his father's name.
We had the naming ceremony in early September. Rob only got there 45 minutes late. And we had 550, 600 people in the Bush Auditorium in Cornell Hall.
He just went on and on about how his father was as a businessman, the resoluteness of him, the honesty, but also just the toughness.
He was very disciplined, he was very focused. He was the ultimate at time management. Every day he had a plan, and he implemented that plan.
Just the tremendous respect and love, adoration that he had for his father.
My parents had a beautiful marriage, and my dad loved my mother completely. His favorite place was in her arms on the dance floor.
And he spoke, and I tell you what, people were crying. He gave such a great talk for 30 minutes.
It's a dream come true, I know, that happened for him, to be able to be there that day, to see this school named in honor of Bob.
And it's in perpetuity, so Robert J. Trulaske Sr. will be on our college forever.
This naming is one of the most important things that Rob was proud of.
He was just a super, super kind individual whose passions and compassion really ruled the way he behaved and interacted with people.
They worked hard, but they always enjoyed it, and they knew that they were selling the best product that was available.
Well, one of his customers told me, they said, Rob has been successful because he gives the industry what they want. He makes great equipment, has it available when we need it, and follows up. He doesn't cheat, doesn't lie.
If you asked him what was important to him, he started with family, went to business, and then went to community.
Rob was a gentleman through and through, and I don't know if this is well known or not, but he had a great interest in American history.
Rob was one of those individuals that could talk to anyone, basically on any topic.
Rob was one of the nicest people I ever met.
He brought an energy to a room that could lighten the room or the mood.
And his laughter was like a bolt of lightning. It was just enormous. Brett had a unique balance of life and work. So once work was done, he was with his family.
You know, when we talk about family, he would say, believe in love and laugh often.
He was authentic. He was himself.
Between St. Louis Life, which is the home for special need adults, and just the generosity that goes with the Robert J. Trulaske Jr. Family Foundation, it really is a way to pull our family together. It gives purpose. And, you know, that same vigor that he had for life, it sort of translates into when you serve. And when you serve, that's when you really find meaning. I mean, it's great to love your career, but this brings us together to know, how can we be of purpose? How can we make this a better world? How can we leave our mark where maybe with nature or with these kids that live in this home together as a family, how can we change things in a positive way? You know, that's all just from Rob.
As we watch the video, we can all, for those of us that didn't have the pleasure of meeting him, we can feel the energy, we can feel the positivity, we can feel the passion. And we promise to live up to that positivity, that energy that Rob Jr. had, and inspire generations to come. We are very, very fortunate that we had him to inspire us for many, many years to come. And I want to say, Rob, if you're listening, we did everything, and we will continue to do everything except one thing. We started the program on time.